Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the closing session of the 80th SASHTO annual meeting. Please welcome to the stage the Assistant Secretary for Strategic Development at the Florida Department of Transportation, Brad Thoburn.
Good afternoon and welcome to the closing session of SASHTO 2021. I hope that over the past few days you've taken the time to connect with friends and colleagues you haven't seen in a while, as well as new folks that you're excited to collaborate with in the future. Today, we will be building upon our uniquely Florida theme as we take the time to recognize the greatest strength of our agency, our people. As you took your seats this afternoon, you saw employee tribute videos from numerous SASHTO state delegates, each reflecting on the amazing work and efforts their employees provide day in and day out to serve the residents of their states. Last year has provided us all a moment to step back and reflect on the things that are important, to slow down and focus on what it takes to bring billion-dollar transportation projects to life, the people. Those that we work alongside every day. And today, I'm honored to introduce to you some of FDOT's heroes and share their contributions. Our first hero is Charles Bryant, FDOT's Field Operations Supervisor in District 1. On March 5th, Charles received a call from the Bartow Police Department requesting traffic control assistance due to a traffic incident on US 17 that resulted in damage to 2 electrical poles and a large portion of the city of Bartow being without power. Charles quickly arrived on site to determine how FDOT could assist and assembled a team to set up an emergency lane closure to allow Bartow Electric to reinstall power to both poles. Over the course of 6 hours, Charles and his team assisted as power was restored to the city. Our next hero is Dr. Ian Pawn, our Cultural Resource Coordinator for District 2. He provided outstanding service during an unusual assignment due to the discovery and recovery of human remains at the I-295 and I-95 North Interchange project near Jacksonville. It was ultimately determined that the remains were from an old, unmarked, and unmaintained cemetery. Ian handled this task with an unwavering commitment of ensuring the remains were handled in a respectful manner and transferred to a research university for analysis. Our next hero is Renee Saunders, who successfully oversaw the largest debris removal contract, not only in FDOT District 3, but across the entire state after Hurricane Michael. And it came at a price tag of $450 million. You all know that debris removal is critical to allowing first responders and residents the ability to safely return to hurricane-impacted areas. Next, Paula Scott is our District 4 Transit Coordinator, and she manages our Regional Express Bus Financial Plan, the State Transit Block Grant, and the Federal Grant for Non-Urban Operating Assistance Programs. Over the past year, Paula developed a new emergency reporting system for transit which can be used to report updates related to hurricane or other severe weather events, including other emergencies. This system has streamlined daily reporting and provides significant time savings for both the department and our local transit partners. Tushar Patel, a District 5 freeway and arterial management specialist, is an integral part of an upcoming web-based application that is being designed to assist the public in choosing multimodal transportation options for a trip. As the department continues to build a strong transportation network in Central Florida, Tushar's efforts will help better inform users of all the transportation available to them. Next, Tiffany Gerke is our District 6 Bicycle, Pedestrian, and ADA Coordinator, and has elevated the department's exposure and awareness to an increasing demand for a multimodal approach to transportation in South Florida. Tiffany is currently managing 3 planning studies to address gaps in the bicycle network in the metro Miami area and has become an important advocate for bicycle and pedestrian safety. Next, Jim Jacobson, who you met in the opening welcome video, has led our District 1 and District 7 Structures Maintenance Office since 2010. The Skyway Bridge, under Jim's maintenance responsibilities, is the gateway to Tampa Bay and the flagship bridge of Florida. 2 key enhancements have been added along the Sunshine Skyway Bridge under Jim's leadership. These include a 3.1-mile suicide prevention barrier and a dynamic LED skyway lighting that was added along the exterior face of the bridge and columns. And lastly, Ciauci Fine from the Florida's Turnpike Enterprise Planning Office. Ciauci oversaw the annual communication of the tentative work program to Central and West Florida MPOs, which requires several months of preparation. Ciauci delivered more than 25 individualized presentations to 7 MPOs and 4 DOT districts, each with very different approaches to public meetings, which included varying guidelines and restrictions. So as you can see, we have an amazing team at FDOT, and I really have just barely touched the tip of the iceberg. Please help me welcome these heroes to the stage. First, Charles Bryan. Dr. Ian Pond. Renee Saunders. Paula Scott. Tushar Patel. Tiffany Gerke. James Jacobson. And lastly, Ciauci Fine. Ladies and gentlemen, the heroes of the Florida Department of Transportation.
And now, please welcome the Secretary of the Florida Department of Transportation, Kevin Tebow.
I had to get with the theme here. So, before we move on recognizing our DOT heroes, I wanted to take a few moments to share how the department assists in the state of Florida, like all of you do, with all these behind-the-scenes activities, right? The DOT tends to be kind of behind the scenes when it needs to be called. And so at this point, we're going to talk a little bit about how Florida DOT helped out with that unfortunate incident that occurred at the Surfside condo collapse that occurred back in June. So I'd like to invite to join me here our Chief Engineer, Will Watts, our Director of Construction, Dan Hurtado, our Structures Engineer, Will Potter, and our District 6 Construction Engineer, Mario Cabrera, to join me on the stage. Ooh, this thing is a little tight here. Yeah, look at that. All right. Some of these guys are saying, what the heck is he wearing that on? So we kept calling this the hard hat moment, so I had to get in the costume here, right? No tuxedo again tonight, none. So a couple of things I wanted to share with you. Those of you who recall what happened down in Surfside, which is next to Miami Beach, early that Thursday morning, we all got notified that there was an unfortunate incident with the collapse of the whole, or a big portion of the condo complex there. And almost immediately on that Thursday, later in the day or later in the morning, I got a call from the governor's office and said, you guys, DOT, are the ones that have the engineers, right, in the state agencies or the state government. What can you do to help us? And the first, obviously, was the rescue mission, like we do with a lot of storm events, but then obviously later on as well. And so I immediately reached out to Will Watts, our chief engineer, and I said, Will, I think we're going to need to put together a team that has the expertise within the agency as well as out, right? We rely, a lot of you that are still here from the consultant industry, to help us deliver our program. And I was tapping Will to say, hey, you know where that expertise lies, especially considering what happened here at Surfside. And so Will immediately kind of put together a team and a group to help facilitate that, and kind of gave me, just like Will does, put it in a little org chart. And didn't get the PowerPoint presentation because we didn't have time. But we got it done, and we got that over to the governor's office. And I believe on Saturday, if I remember correctly, Dan, we asked Dan and Will to make the long drive from Tallahassee all the way down to Miami-Dade County to go over there to provide us some support. They're here today to talk a little bit about, I want to kind of facilitate the conversation, just to give you an idea of what they experienced, but more importantly, how we became part of the team to help the community out. So Dan, kind of share a little bit, you got the call to go down there, sort of like you got the call to say, do you have your bag packed? Your wife is pregnant, she's going into labor. What happened initially? What was kind of your thoughts as you were driving down with Will?
Well, the best analogy that I can give to it is jumping off the side of a boat into a deep, dark sea. But I knew that I had great support. I had Will and other people who were up in the boat turning the crank, keeping the air going. So Will Watts and I on the drive down there, Will Potter and I on the drive down there spent that time very aggressively reaching out to consultants and contractors, doing everything that we could to try and get resources in place to accommodate the mission that we were going to encounter when we got down there. And arriving on scene, there were roughly 1,000 first responders already deployed, lots of mobile command centers, fire trucks. So we did our best to integrate with them very quickly and liaise with them and coordinate, and very quickly developed out a logistics, ingress, egress plan for getting out of the site. So it was a lot of decisions had to be made very quickly in real time, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. But everybody was very focused on the mission. Everybody had a singular goal, which was to assist and bring help and hope to the community. And I'm just very, very proud for the work we were able to get done.
Great. So Will Watts, I know when I reached out to you, one of the things was logistics from afar, right? What are the things that we're experiencing? What are the things that we see where we could help? And kind of for our assessment as engineers, as I remember yesterday, we had a lot of engineers in the room. What were the data points and things that you were looking to get from to help with what Dan and Will were going to do, but also for helping the state out in this effort?
Well, I think probably everybody in this room saw the news and saw the catastrophe that happened that morning. Even Dan and I were talking as soon as it happened, Courtney and I. I mean, it affects not only the local community, but it affects the engineering community as well. And so the first call we got is, why do you think it happened, right? So certainly I called on quite a few folks in this room, believe it or not, to see who's the best you got, right? We send the best we got down there, and we needed the best you got to help us decipher and understand what we were seeing with the news, understand what we were seeing with the pictures. It all came together very quickly. A community like we have, an engineering community, came together very, very quickly. It was amazing to see how quickly everybody wanted to be part of the solution. And so the logistics actually came pretty easily because everybody in this room, everybody on the stage wanted the same thing. How can we help? And that moved very, very quickly, Secretary.
Great. So just to let you know, Dan and Will Potter have a structural background, but actually structural background in vertical as well. And that's why we sent them down there. Dan actually has designed vertical construction or vertical structures. Will Potter, you've been involved in construction of some of those vertical structures. So we really were tapping into the expertise that we have, although, as all of you know, we primarily do horizontal construction, right? So we're kind of tapping in to the expertise we have. Will Potter, kind of, as you're driving down there with Dan, your probably first thing is, oh, I got to drive 9 hours with this guy. But anyway, aside from that, what other things were on your mind as you were driving down there?
I guess you're basically trying to keep up with everything that's been going on. I mean, obviously you've seen it happen, you've seen it in the news, and so you're actually getting information and trying to gather your head around what's going on, so how you can contribute. So you're trying to feed yourself with a lot of information, whether it be from Will and Dan, from what their input, but also obviously news and what people are saying is important. And so that's helping us with some of the decisions that we're making and how we're moving forward. So a lot of that took into play of how we're going to go. But, you know, when you get the call at 8:30 in the morning, you're halfway through your paint job on your living room, and you have to leave. It's an interesting day.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, now I feel bad. Oh, my gosh. You had a paint job. By the way, I know of a paint job you can help me with, too, but that's a separate thing. Hey, John, in the back, is the clock good? What are we looking at here? Just keep me on time here, okay? So when Dan and Will Potter went down there, they were kind of the first boots on the ground. I know the district was providing Mario a lot of maintenance of traffic, closing down Collins Boulevard, closing down the different roads because, you know, the command centers were getting set up. And then you kind of engage at the district level to help out kind of those next steps. So tell me kind of how you engage and how we can make sure that things are moving forward as you got engaged.
Yeah, sure. So it started Saturday morning, as the secretary mentioned. I was glued to my TV. Never in my wildest dream did I think we were going to get involved, and I missed a call from Will and followed up with the call with him, and he said, y'all ready to go? And we got involved. So one of the things that the first thing they had to do was detour traffic south and north of the location. And so we had to set up a maintenance of traffic for that to create a two-way street on Harding. And then following up, Dan and Will set it all up where we're basically our role was to, as the first respondents were out there and trying to search, remove debris and so forth, we were trying to haul away all the debris that we could to keep them going. And so we had our local contractors help us and push that along. So that was part of the logistics. It was very humbling and it was tough, but it was good that we were able to come through and help out all we could.
That's great. So at the end of the day, Dan got out there. I think it was late at night because we talked on the phone, and he did some initial assessment. Next morning, kind of got better. Got daylight, so you can kind of get a better sense of what was going on. As Mario mentioned. As the search and rescue teams were there, Miami-Dade County and others, to kind of help do some recovery or rescue efforts, they had to move pieces out. They were putting it into another pile. Eventually, that pile is going to get larger. So they asked the department, through, like Mario said, the contractors, hey, get this out so we can keep doing what we're doing. The key thing there, though, is we had to then make sure we find a secure site, so we can put that for the investigators later. That's not our thing. That's someone else's thing to do. And continue to facilitate this over the next couple of days. So as the week went on and they continued the rescue efforts, it became apparent about a week later, the following Thursday, that the current remaining structure was not stable. There was a concern about its stability. And so there was a lot of discussion going on, and they did cease some of the rescue efforts just because of that. Because as they were moving debris, stuff that could be helping it up is now getting pulled away. So there was a lot of discussion over that next day or so about, I think we need to demolish and just condemn and demolish the rest of that structure so that we can now go full, right? Because they were kind of controlling a little bit. So remember now, trucks are moving, right? Our dump trucks are constantly going. I think we had 10 dump trucks, if I remember right, just constantly going in and out. The logistics to get the trucks there, can you imagine now? CNN, everybody's there, right? Had to figure out how we're going to get them in there. Again, this is all behind the scenes. You never heard this on the TV, right? So we get to that big decision on how we're going to condemn this building and what's the next steps. A lot of people in the room sitting there having a discussion about how to do the condemnation and how to demolish the building. A couple of days before that, I had gotten a call again from our group at our emergency management office to say, hey, DOT, can you help us with this demolition? I said, absolutely. Called Will. Will did his due diligence and identified probably one of the leading experts in controlled demolition. And so we brought them down so they can kind of do assessment. They were working with Dan at the time. Dan was kind of the boots there, so he was coordinating with them. So we got to this meeting, and they're all sitting there together, and they're going around the room. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Most of the local people were saying, it's going to take a couple weeks. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, and go on and get to Dan. Now, Dan has a master's degree in structural engineering, right, with a dissertation on exactly what we're talking about. Okay, but they don't know this at the time. This is like the Paul Harvey rest of the story. And so, I'm glad you know who Paul Harvey is. All right. Wow, I was trying to see. I show my age again. But anyway, so we get to this point and go around. So Dan happens to be at the seat at the table with the demo person. And they go to Dan, and Dan says, once you give us the green light with my colleague here, this building will be down in 48 hours. And they're looking at him, and they're saying, how can this be, right? What do you mean? So then Dan proceeds to tell him his credentials. And they said, I thought you were the dump truck guy. Because the whole week, Dan's sitting there on a chair with an umbrella over his head, counting truck number 1, truck number 2, truck, like we do, right? All the time, right? So, just wanted to share that heroes are everywhere. We had a great group that was just up here a minute ago. Heroes are everywhere. But I do want to recognize Dan to say that I am not the dump truck guy. All right? Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, guys. And John in the back, thank you for giving me a little more time. I saw it flashing. So I want to take a moment again to recognize kind of our keynote sponsors. I mentioned yesterday we can't do this without our sponsors. And our keynote sponsor for this session and speaker coming up here is John Barton with HNTB. So John, can you join me up here? There he is. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Tebow, and I want to congratulate you and the entire Florida DOT team on such a phenomenal SASHTO 2021. You planned and organized it, facing some strong headwinds, and all of us are very appreciative. Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be with you today. On behalf of myself and the entire HNTB team, I wanted to thank all of our SASHTO DOT organizations for the opportunity to sponsor this event, and also for the opportunity to be a partner with you in helping deliver some of your most complex and challenging transportation projects across your states. We all know that the challenges that are facing us in transportation continue to grow and evolve and change every day, and that addressing these challenges is going to take new and creative solutions that require innovation and imagination that is much different than what our past has provided for us. So as we look to the future, what better place to imagine the possibilities of how to accomplish these things than here at the Disney World Resort, where Walt Disney and his Imagineers have inspired all of us to believed that there will be self-driving automobiles and flying vehicles decades ago, and those are innovations that are soon to become commonplace realities around the globe. So it's my honor to introduce our keynote speaker this afternoon, Mr. Scott Malwitz. Scott is currently the Executive Creative Director of Walt Disney Imagineering, where he's leading the historic transformation of Epcot. Hopefully some of you were able to visit that while you were here this week. Scott has enjoyed a 33-year career where he's worked on theme parks, museums, resorts, as well as even the Olympic Games. And throughout those experiences, he's focused on immersive and experiential storytelling to compel the visitors there and his guests to have a great experience. His work here at Disney has included Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Hollywood Studios, the Magic Kingdom Fantasy Expansion, and other transformative projects. So at this time, I would like to ask all of you to join me in a great SASHTO welcome to Mr. Scott Malwitz and a very special guest.